Yeah, that was a question I was going to ask you. Is that, you know, light is fine, but is it safe?
It's basically like this. Because the car is shaped like a diamond, most of the impacts are not direct. You know, when a rectangle hits something, it tends to just stop. And so there's a sudden change of momentum, and it's all about managing that sudden change of momentum. In our car, the car tends to deflect, especially because it's light. So when it hits something, it deflects away from the impact. Secondly, our car is light, but it's not small. It has a footprint of about a Chevy Malibu.
Oh, okay.
And so because it's light but not small, it means that it has space that can be put to other uses. In other words, all the space in our chassis in our car is not tied up in function. Some of it's just space that we have to design to collapse, a crush zone that other cars don't have. In particular, that's true because of the wheels we have that are external to the chassis, just like a race car.
Right. Okay. Good. Well, let's talk about shift our focus then from that over to the next generation car, which is really dramatically different. Whereas the current car that you have, the X Prize cars, reminds me of a stealth fighter, right? Sort of that like you say, the diamond profile and things where it looks like you could deflect radar signals and be almost invisible.
Well, what's interesting? It's interesting you say that because the guy who really designed the shape of this car for us, part of our team, is Barnaby Wainfan, who's the aerodynamics fellow at Northrop Grumman. So in other words, his day job actually is designing things like stealth fighters. So accident, it looks the way it does.
Okay, well that explains it then. Okay, so we've got a car now, the new generation car, and I've got some photographs I've ripped off the web, but if you guys could maybe send me some better ones, that would be even great, even better, and I'll insert those into the conversation so people can see what we're talking about. We've got a car that sort of moves back more towards a little more conventional in look, but it still is pretty radical. You still have those outrigger wheels on it. You know, still fairly aerodynamic, diamond shape, but more rounded. And it's an attractive car. I was not all that taken with the you know, the design of the X Prize cars, but this I could sort of warm up to. So tell us, how did that evolve? What's the evolution of that?
Well, we were actually thinking about what to do with our next car before the X Prize was even finished. Because number one is, as we moved along the X Prize, we realized we were doing something that other people weren't, and this was important. But secondly, we also realized, well, the next car had to be able to meet safety standards. It needed a bumper, for example, and the car needed to be higher up the ground so the bumper could be in line with our existing wheel fairings. We needed external mirrors, which we used cameras for the X Prize. We needed a car that was easy to get in and out of, and our X Prize cars, again, they're competition prototypes. They're not the easiest thing to enter and exit. We needed a car that was just easy to use. User-friendly would be another way of putting it.
Right.
So some of the changes incorporating a bumper are based on those considerations. But the other thing that happened was the X Prize car has it's very much a diamond. It has sort of straight lines in it. And that was partly due to the time constraints of the X Prize and the ability of us to create a prototype of a very tight time frame.
Yeah.
But those straight lines aren't ideal aerodynamically. Having more curve, having a convexity instead of a straight line actually improves the aerodynamic efficiency. So by having a little softer design, which I think is what you're seeing,
right.
We've done some wind tunnel testing at Virginia Tech. It's not too far from us, and on our models as we go along developing the next car. And we now know that we can actually improve the aerodynamic efficiency through this new, more rounded shape and help offset the losses that we're going to incur by having things like external mirrors, bumpers, other things that are going to impact us aerodynamically.
Right. Well, one of the things that got me looking at this was this competition that you've announced with, I think, Forge, a software company to actually do open source designing. And I think what you're doing, this competition launched, what's today, the 5th, it launched on the 8th, it launched on the 5th to help you design the hinges for the door of the vehicle. Is that correct? Do I get
Yeah,
that?
what we're doing is, we use a software, Solid Edge. It's a Siemens PLM product to design our car, and we're working with Local Motors, the Forge community of Local Motors, to allow other people who use this software, it's a very user-friendly type software, to get involved a little bit in what we're doing with our car. It's a great way for us to get a bunch of ideas on some specific design elements, and so we're having a competition for someone to help us design an aerodynamic door handle. What they get as to do that is they can get a free trial copy of Solid Edge, of one of their products if they haven't had it. They don't already have it. They get the information they need from us of what our mechanism is going to be like, how the door is going to fit, what the shape of the door is going to be, so that someone can then come along and help design the door handle. So it's a very cool project. We're pretty excited about it.
Yeah, pretty interesting. So you've got open source automotive engineering going on here, and I guess the winner gets the software suite then, or gets $2,500 or something.
Yeah,
like
there's a cash prize. There's 3 winners with a total of $6,000 in prizes.
Okay.
So we're really excited about it. We've really benefited from what we've been able to do with Solid Edge. So we're glad to have something that kind of shows people the value of it.
Right. So is this the first time you've run something like this to help design the car?
Yes, it is.
Okay, good. Well,
but Local Motors, who we're partnering with on this, does a number of competitions this type. So we're sort of fitting into the model that they've been using before.
Right. They sort of host competitions like Design the Ultimate Dune Buggy type thing. So okay. So let's talk about the car itself then. I gather where you're at on the project now, is it still pretty well digital at this point, or are you starting to get some mules built, or where is it that way?
We're working on building a test vehicle, okay. Because the changes are more than just skin deep. We're also, the X-Prize car was built around a tubular steel frame, ideal for prototyping because you can just change something in a heartbeat when you want to move something. What we're doing now is we're building an aluminum sheet metal riveted chassis that eventually could be could lead towards mass production as in a stamped product.
Okay.
And so we actually have changes both the skin and the surface and the appearance, and then under the skin. In some ways, it's going to be an entirely new car built on the same design principles that won us the X Prize.
Okay, again, it'd be 4-passenger, I assume.
4-passenger, and what we want out of this, where we're going is, we're not intending to become an auto manufacturer. What we want to do is develop our ideas and license them for production by other entities, both either domestically or overseas. So we see ourselves as developing this next prototype as a way of showing that there's a real market and in fact a real need for cars with this level of efficiency that are not just efficient but affordable. And that's the one part we haven't talked about yet, is that the light weight of our cars does not come from the materials, it comes from the design. And so our cars will be made of mainstream materials, aluminum, steel, sort of conventional type composites. And so if you combine 3 things, if you combine design simplicity, you combine low mass, meaning there's not a whole lot of material, and you use mainstream materials, inexpensive mainstream materials, this will not be an expensive car. It'll be, we anticipate it'll be less than a $20,000 car as it goes towards production.
Okay. So let's talk about the power plant, because obviously we're always interested in having had your experience with the smart motor, with the little 250cc engine in the X Prize cars and the electric drive. Where do you see where are you going to settle for the power plant then?
Well, I think for the test vehicle we're building an electric version of the power plant, and it's straightforward, it's simple, it's readily available to us. One of the problems we have, challenges we face for an internal combustion version of our car, is that there aren't any vehicles, any engines currently available in the United States that are small enough for our needs. In fact, we did the smart car prototype because that's the smallest engine you can buy in the United States. And it's way overpowered for our car.
Yeah.
So, we're going to do an electric coming up. But we like, at the end of the day, we like to say we're energy source agnostic, which means you put an electric drive in our car. It's really efficient. It means you have a smaller battery, short charging time. You put an internal combustion engine in, again, small engine, very efficient, less costly. Hybrid drive, that's probably the next thing on our list to pursue, but one at a time.
So, one of the things, of course, struck me here is having followed this, I've seen a lot of these very exotic, attractive, curvaceous, futuristic vehicles sort of come and go. And while they're wildly efficient and really exciting to look at, they don't seem to go anywhere. And I'm wondering, is that just simply because we as a people are so fixated on what current vehicles look like that to make that bridge to a vehicle that has outlier fairing wheels and an aviation cockpit, is that just too far for the average customer to go?
Well, that's a great question. And, we have spent a fair amount of time. We've taken our X5's cars, and now our electric car, we'll take them to different shows or events, or people come in our shop and see them. We give tours occasionally. And what we notice is there are some people who have a firm idea on what a car is supposed to look like, and we don't meet that idea.
Yeah.
They tend to be our age, Bill. And they tend to be male more often than not. I mean, people for whom a car has a certain set of requirements.
Yeah.
Once we get a little ways away from that, there's a lot of people who are pretty excited to see something different. Something that's just taking a fresh look at what a car can be. We have a tremendous number of people say, "When can I buy one of these? I can't wait." So I think there's a significant market already for something that looks like this, and I think it's only going to grow as people get kind of accustomed to the fact the car of the future may look a little bit different than the car of today.
Right. So if you were sort of had your crystal ball out here, when do you see that manufacturer, where do you see that particular ideal manufacturer? Abu Dhabi, Singapore, Shenzhen, China. I mean, who do you see, taking an interest in this and actually committing capital to start production of something like this? And when might that happen?
Well, we're having conversations with both domestic and overseas manufacturing entities. We're having discussions with automotive and non-automotive people. It's going to happen. Hopefully, we'll have some deals, some specific things I can talk to you about in the next 6 months and year.
Okay.
And I think we're going to see versions of this car being made both domestically and overseas. And I think there'll be different requirements, different types of designs. I mean, what a person needs in India in a vehicle is probably pretty different than what a person needs in Los Angeles. But we're pretty positive about the future, and that we're on the right track here.
Okay, good. Well, I think that pretty well gets most of my questions answered. And please, let's definitely stay in touch on this thing. And as it moves forward, I'd love to continue to report on that for our viewers. So.
Okay. Well, thanks for having me today.
That'd be great. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.